How to improve your emotional intelligence? It's a really great question. Once you begin to work on that process of emotional intelligence, life, I think, really gets better. It gets a little bit easier. That's my humble opinion. I do think it gets a little bit easier to communicate with others, to go to work, to love yourself, to appreciate yourself. In this video, you're going to be with me, Dr. Santos, and we're going to talk about what emotional intelligence is, a couple of red flags, and some items that you can do to implement in your life to start to improve emotional intelligence, which means, once again, you improve emotional intelligence, you have a healthy relationship with yourself, with others. It sets the tone for relationship building in life, which is vital, right? I mean, as humans, we depend so much on the connection that we build with others. So emotional intelligence on a basic level, it's my ability, right? My IQ, my ability to understand what I'm going through, to have self-awareness, to understand what motivates me on an internal, external level, empathy, to have social awareness, to know that if I'm sitting down with you and you start to cry, to be able to interact with that, to be there with you, to come home and if my wife has a different demeanor or mood, I'm able to pick up on it, right? I'm aware of that. If I'm angry, I'm able to self-regulate. All of that has to do with emotional intelligence. And on the end of what the red flags are for emotional intelligence. So this would be, if I struggle with emotional intelligence, right? What can happen? Which I find that's really important to know that. If I struggle with emotional intelligence, people are going to know. They may not say, "Hey, Dr. Santos, you struggle with emotional intelligence," but there's going to be a negative interaction during that dynamic that I have with that person. A couple of examples of, we'll say, red flags that have to do with emotional intelligence. It would be where I have this need to always want to be right. So I'm sitting down with a good friend, and the friend's debating something with me, and my need to be right is at the forefront, right? I don't care how they feel or what insults I give them, because I care more about my need to be right. So you can tell that when it comes to emotional intelligence, I'm kind of going downhill there. The other red flag is where I struggle with feedback. Someone says, "Hey, I think it's important that for us to have a good relationship, we hear each other out," and they're giving me constructive, healthy feedback. I become so defensive about that. I see it as a threat. I attack them, right, verbally, and that shows another red flag of a struggle with emotional intelligence. Once again, you're thinking about emotional intelligence because it helps you build relationships with your family, your friends, at work. It helps you understand your own self, how to manage your stress, your anxiety, and interactions with others. Another red flag here with emotional intelligence is boundary crossing. So with boundary crossing, it could be that I compare a situation, I interrupt others. Someone is saying, "Hey, I went through this really rough situation," and then I go, "Yeah, but let me tell you mine. My situation was much more difficult than yours." So if the whole, right, if a key point of emotional intelligence is me to understand how to have a healthy relationship with myself, with others, how to regulate my feelings, how to be present with others, how to hear them, empathy, sympathy, compassion, kindness, how to practice all of that, and I struggle with it, I gave you those examples. You can kind of see how struggling with emotional intelligence plays a role in there. Something you're probably thinking about is, well, how do I improve emotional intelligence? A couple of items here that you could look at. One, and this sometimes is a simple one when it's thrown out there, I think it's important. Just pausing. Slow down. And that could be that I get home from work, and instead of being up here of what's happening in my own world, I slow down, I take a deep breath, and I see what's happening in my house. I look around, I see the children, I see my spouse, and I think about what's going on in their worlds, right? What that does is it creates attunement. It allows me to be present in the here and now versus somewhere else. I may even plug in another strategy here where I look at communication strategies. Instead of coming into an interaction and speaking only about myself, I have social awareness, and I say, hey, how are you doing today? And they go, I'm doing pretty good. I go, well, tell me a little bit more about your day. And they tell me a little bit more about the day. And then I keep going, I keep asking, right? I'm developing that social awareness. I'm showing compassion. I am developing my emotional IQ. And I use the word developing because your emotional IQ, I like to think about it as a muscle, right? It's the bicep, and you are just growing it. Another strategy here to improving emotional intelligence is in social situations. Pay attention. Look at body language. Look at emotional cues. So body language could be, if you're around a friend and they're doing this, right? They're kind of just sitting like this. This could mean something. It could mean that they're going through something, they're thinking about something, they're stressed. And if you just, ignore that, right? That's a struggle with emotional intelligence. Perhaps, lean in and say, hey, I notice that you're kind of here. You want to talk about that? What's going on? They may want to, they may not. But again, that's another way to build your emotional intelligence. The last one I'll share with you as far as developing emotional intelligence is relationship management. Now here, this could be where you are growing in your skill of apologizing, which is a red flag of emotional intelligence, meaning that someone that struggles with emotional intelligence, they likely struggle to apologize. Typically, there's some kind of ego challenge there. So here, to develop this skill, communicate openly. If you've done something wrong, apologize, and only apology, not just a quick apology to get through the situation, but an apology is sincere, some remorse. Look for a repair. And then the last one that I'm just going to kind of rinse and repeat here. I know I said the last one, but I think this one's a neat one too. Get to know your own feelings. You could have a journal that says, how am I feeling? Green, yellow, red. Define what each color means. And then just live in that space 5 minutes a day. Doing that practice, reflecting on how you're feeling, how you're doing, goes a long way. It helps you understand where you're at, what triggers you, what helps you feel this or that. And again, you're developing that emotional intelligence. I'm a strong believer that as you build this emotional intelligence and you put it into your marriage, into your relationship with your siblings, with your friends, with your children, with your coworkers, with yourself, life gets a little bit easier, gets a little more exciting to be a part of it, to be present in it. Emotional intelligence is neat because I look at it like a muscle. You develop it when you put work into it, consistent, ongoing work. My name is Dr. Santos, licensed counselor. I appreciate that you're here, that you're watching these videos. Thank you. I put a lot of energy and effort into them. I'll see you in the next one.